In the back of the book segment tonight, what does ISIS really want? Their crimes are horrific. The beheadings, the suicide bombings, the mass killings. But what is ISIS hoping to accomplish when they commit their heinous crimes? Joining us now in studio is William McCants, a fellow at the Brookings Institute and author of the book, The ISIS Apocalypse, The History, Strategy, and Doomsday Vision of the Islamic State. So, Doctor, very simply, what do they want?
ISIS wants to recreate the early Islamic empire that ruled North Africa and the Middle East. It was called the Caliphate, and they're hoping to rebuild it. It's an imperial project. They've begun in Syria and Iraq, and they hope to retake the whole thing.
Is it growing? Let me ask you this. There are numbers that are thrown out there, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000. How many ISIS fighters or sympathizers are there?
Well, in Syria and Iraq, there's probably between 30 and 50,000, and then around the world, you could probably add on another 10, 20,000 more.
Now, tell us what's their mindset? What's life inside ISIS like?
Well, many of the people at the top are very pious. The fellow who runs the organization, the so-called caliph, actually has a PhD in Islamic studies. But he's also surrounded by a number of men who used to work in Saddam's military and security apparatus, and they're the guys who have helped build his authoritarian state.
Do they hate the West? Do they have a real hatred for the West?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They see the West as the new crusaders, the infidels that they are supposed to fight according to Islamic prophecy at the end times. And this is a group that is fired by visions of the apocalypse.
According to Islamic prophecy of the end times, are you also talking about the Quran?
The Quran is pretty vague when it comes to the end times. Most of this stuff is found in other Islamic scripture.
Because a lot of people would say some of it is actually found in the Quran. They don't believe that the Quran contains kill the infidel. If you don't agree with Islamic Sharia law, you should be killed.
Oh, sure, they believe that. Absolutely. But when it comes to prophecies of the end times, there are other scriptures they look to. But as I said, the fellow at the top studied the Quran. He's an expert in it. And they like to quote the harsher verses of the Quran to justify what they're doing.
Al-Baghdadi, does this all come directly from al-Baghdadi? And is it his vision, the way Osama bin Laden had the vision for al-Qaeda and everyone worked towards him?
Yes, he's not just a figurehead. He's definitely the guy at the top calling the shots. But much of this vision came from Abu Musab Zarqawi, who established al-Qaeda in Iraq, the predecessor to the Islamic State.
This is taught. They're teaching the children this, right?
That's right. And the kind of Islam that they practice is not very different from the kind of Islam you find in Saudi Arabia. In fact, when they needed textbooks in their capital city of Raqqa, and they didn't have any, they used Saudi school textbooks. It's a very ultra-conservative, rough form of Islam, and they are seeking to spread it inside of Syria and Iraq.
Talk to me about Wahhabism.
Wahhabism goes back to the 18th century. It comes out of a very puritanical strain in Islam. It has a very dichotomous black and white view of the infidel and the true believer. Even hates a lot of their own fellow Muslims. Okay,
let's talk about what the strategy is right now. They're using the internet. They're using these videos as propaganda. That's a new terror tactic.
It is. They have recently shifted to attacking the so-called far enemy. Before this, they had been focused on state building, and much of their propaganda was calling on Muslims to come join them in building the state. Now they are taking the fight to their enemies, and they're calling on a lot of their would-be recruits to stay home and build terror cells.
Is it working? Are they recruiting? Are they actually gaining numbers by these propaganda videos?
They do, and the way that they recruit is different than al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda was trying to win over the Muslim masses. ISIS is trying to win over a small sliver of Muslim society, and they're succeeding.
Do they believe Allah wants them to kill non-believers, to end the lives of non-believers?
Absolutely, no question. And they believe that not only does God call for them to kill, but that humanity is approaching the end of times, and these times call for desperate measures.
And by dying for the cause, you attain heaven.
Yes, that's one of their key teachings.
Is there any way to beat that?
Not beat it. It will be around for a while, particularly given all the political instability in the Middle East and North Africa.
I'm going to leave it right there. William McCants, thank you very much. It's scary inside the mind of ISIS.